friends, I'm Dr. Kuldeep Mohadikar. In this video, I will be presenting my 11th chapter from my series Literary Pearls. The chapter is entitled as Shakespearean Tragedy. Tragedy is a play which is full of suffering and ends with death, a tragic event, we can say. Shakespeare wrote several tragedies, but four of them, Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, and King Lear, are the most remarkable. They are known as great tragedies. Aristotle, the great ancient philosopher and critic, laid down certain conditions for a tragedy. It is not known whether Shakespeare read Aristotle's Poetics or not, but his tragedies have certain common characteristics which can be discussed as follows. The first is a high ranked hero. A Shakespearean tragedy has one central figure, the tragic hero. He is not a common man but a high ranked person. He is from a royal society. He is not only socially eminent but has many qualities of head and heart. He has a great personality or strength too. Thus, Hamlet is a prince, young and clever. Macbeth is a warrior and king. Othello is a general, and King Lear is an emperor. Antony and Cleopatra too are from royal families. Romeo and Juliet too are from rich and royal families. Macbeth is described as Valor's minion, while King Lear is depicted as every inch a king. Thus, a Shakespearean hero is a great man physically and spiritually. Second characteristics that we will see is tragic flaw. The Shakespearean hero suffers from a defect or shortcoming. It brings about his tragic flaw. It proves to be fatal to him in the situation in which he is placed or circumstances in which he has to act. Thus, Macbeth has ambition for power which proves fatal to him. The inaction of Hamlet is his tragic flaw. Antony's love for Cleopatra proves fatal to both of them. Similarly, Othello is over-credulous and King Lear is too rash. So, these are all tragic flaws in these great heroes. Then we will come to third characteristics, that is character and destiny. A Shakespearean tragedy is tale of suffering leading towards death, and this suffering and death are caused not by fate, destiny, or by some other outside agency, but by the action of the tragic hero himself. In a Shakespearean tragedy, character is destiny, as the actions of the hero issue out of his character. The hero has freedom to choose the actions, and yet he commits error after error. For example, Macbeth knows the hideous nature of the crime he commits, but still he commits it and brings out his doom. Hamlet knows that he should not delay his action, but he delays, and these delays lead him to his death. Then we'll come to the fourth characteristics, that is conflict. Conflict is the soul of Shakespearean tragedy. It is of two types, internal and external. The internal conflict goes on in the mind of the hero. The external conflict is between the hero and the villain or any other vicious character in the play. For example, in Hamlet, the external conflict is between Hamlet and either Claudius or Lysias, and internal conflict goes on in Hamlet's mind. He thinks and does not do the action or delays it. His soliloquies show the conflict in his mind. Then the fifth one is catharsis. Catharsis is one of the elements of tragedy given by Aristotle. Shakespeare too followed it. Catharsis is the purgation or purification of the feelings of pity and fear. The Shakespearean tragedy definitely creates the feelings of pity and fear. For instance, the ghost scene and the ending of Hamlet create the feelings of horror. The scenes of the witches and the murder of King Duncan in Macbeth create the feelings of pity and horror. The storm scenes and the scenes of King Lear's madness in King Lear arouse the feelings of pity and horror. Then we come to the next point, that is comic relief, the next feature or characteristic, that is comic relief. The comic relief helps the reader to get relief from the tragic tension in the tragedy. Shakespeare uses the fools to fulfill the purpose. In some plays, certain comic scenes are inserted for the purpose. the gravedigger scene in Hamlet, the porter scene in Macbeth serves as the example of all this comic relief. The central figures in such scenes are common men, and Shakespeare often used prose for their dialogues. Then we will come to the next, that is the seventh characteristics, that's tragic irony. Tragic irony too finds expression in Shakespeare, in Shakespearean tragedy. Many scenes in the field of Shakespearean tragedy contain tragic irony. For example, Othello doubts the character of Desdemona. He feels that she is guilty of adultery and kills her, but actually she is innocent and everything is planned by the villain Iago. In Hamlet, Hamlet pretends to be mad even in presence of Ophelia, but Ophelia really becomes mad. This situation or such situations are ironical but tragic. Then the next characteristics we are going to see is supernatural element. One more outstanding feature of the Shakespearean tragedy is the use of supernatural element. Shakespeare uses ghosts or witches to form the supernatural element in his tragedies. For instance, Macbeth meets three witches on his way, and they prophesies that he would become king. This creates lust in the heart of Macbeth, and finally he has to pay a big price for his mistake. Similarly, ghost plays a significant role in Hamlet. Then we will see the next characteristics or feature, the ninth one, that is chance or accident. In most of his tragedies, Shakespeare allows chance or accident an appreciable influence at some point in the action. It is an accident, for example, that Desdemona dropped her handkerchief at the most fatal moment. Macbeth is only tragedy of Shakespeare in which the element of chance is conspicuous by its absence. Then we will see the 10th characteristics or the most important feature, that is lack of poetic justice. There is no poetic justice in a Shakespearean tragedy. Poetic justice means that guilty should be punished and innocent should be rewarded or at least freed from the dangers. This is not found in Shakespearean tragedy. In it, the guilty persons and persons suffer and are duly punished, but along with them, the innocent too suffer and sometimes die. In Hamlet, Claudius is punished. He is killed by Hamlet, but Hamlet, the innocent hero, too suffers and finally dies. Similarly, Ophelia, Polonius, Laertes die for no faults of them. In Othello, Desdemona and Iago suffer equally. Then we will come to the next, or we can say the last point which I want to describe here, that is abnormal state of mind, the 11th characteristics from the Shakespearean tragedy. The next feature of Shakespearean tragedy is that its hero often has an abnormal state of mind. So the action done by the persons are not ordinary but extraordinary and full of fantasy. For example, Lady Macbeth's sleepwalking scene and has no influence on the succeeding event. The dagger scene in Macbeth and Lear's insanity are other examples of the fact. Thus, the Shakespearean tragedy has typical features. They make it resemble the Aristotelian concept of tragedy. It is thus classical in nature, and modern tragedy is in its complete contrast. So friends, this was all about from my side on Shakespearean tragedy. So whatever videos I am making, mostly from the student point of view, they are student centric. So friends, thanks for listening this video.